Hey guys, welcome back. I wanted to do a new pen day video for a really beautiful new pen. This is the pen that I got myself for Christmas. I just couldn't resist getting this pen. I thought it was so beautiful. And it does have quite a bit of a higher price point, so I know a lot of people. I've seen people on forums and in fountain pen groups asking about this pen. What does it look like in person? Does it look like the pictures? What's the difference between this model and the Sailor Lool? So I thought I would just do a little new pen day video and talk a little bit more in depth about this pen because it's beautiful and it deserves to have a little bit of a moment, and I thought the information would be useful. Okay, so this is the new um, limited edition Sailor Pro Gear Slim in Yumeyoi. Uh, it comes with a matching bottle of ink. I do not have this particular ink in the pen right now because I have seen photos of this ink online and I know that it is extremely pale to the point of barely being legible. So I did use a different purple, which I will show you in a moment. But the bottle is still gorgeous, isn't it? It's so pretty. Um, so the pen, the first question that I saw a lot of people asking is the pen as transparent as it looks in the photos? So it is. Both the cap and the body of the pen have a lot of transparency to it. And what I mean by that is, you can see all of the internal mechanisms of the pen. You can see the converter. This is the ink right here. You can see that. And then the cap, even though the cap is like this darker blue, you can still see the nib and the section. And I'm just going to show off the cap there and turn it. It's beautiful. It has beautiful, like a falling star motif. And then on the very top, the top finial, it does have a little moon and star. My camera is not wanting to focus, but you can see that. Okay, and then when I take off the cap, even the section is like completely transparent. You can see the internals. The second feature of this pen that I wanted to talk about is the nib. Let me see if I have, sorry, my squeaky chair. I'm going to just gently, there's a little bit of ink on the nib. I'm just going to gently wipe this off with a little piece of paper towel. Okay, I got most of the ink off there. There is a very faint engraving, there we go, on that nib. It's difficult to see. It's easier to see in photos online, but I did just want to show that. That's an engraving of a tapir. It's really beautiful. Now, when I first saw this pen, when I saw the motif and when I saw the tapir engraving on the nib, I was reminded very strongly of certain characters. This is going to sound silly, but I was reminded of characters in Japanese video games that look like a tapir. So if you've ever played Animal Crossing, for example, there's a character, I think her name is Luna, that comes in and she looks like a tapir and she takes you to like a dream world. And then I thought of Pokemon. There is a Pokemon that looks like a tapir that hypnotizes you to fall asleep. And when I thought of these characters, I wanted to look more deeply into the imagery associated with it. So I did some Googling and I found out that in Japanese folklore, the tapir is associated with like a god. I think it's called the Baku, and it eats nightmares. And then I read the description of the pen, and they are indeed alluding to that. That was the intention behind including the tapir on the nib. They wanted to do a little nod to the nightmare eating creature, which I thought was really cool. I thought that was a really special intention. It kind of pushed me over the edge a little bit to buy the pen. I thought that was such a special meaning behind the pen. Okay, so I wanted to talk also about the difference between the Sailor Pro Gear Slim, this pen, and the Lool, because there is a version of this that is much more affordable, that's kind of tamped down. It's not as... It doesn't have all the bells and whistles, let's say. So the Lool version, which is much less expensive, I believe it doesn't have any of the falling star motif on the cap. And the biggest difference, the main difference, the reason that the price is so different between those two pen models, it has to do with the nib, primarily. This nib is gold. This is a, this is a 14 karat gold nib. And the Lool version is just steel. There's no gold included in that nib. So the writing experience will be somewhat different between a gold nib and a steel nib. The gold nibs typically are a little bit softer. It's a more pleasant writing experience. And most people who are buying a Sailor tend to spring for that gold nib because that's kind of Sailor's selling point, is they have that nice writing experience with that nice gold nib. I saw someone asking, I have seen some people asking, I've never bought a Sailor before, but I really want this pen. Should I buy the more expensive version? And my answer to that is, hold on. Sailor nibs are different from most other fountain pen nibs, and I would strongly urge you to try to test a Sailor out yourself before springing almost $400 on a fountain pen that you might hate. There's a few ways that you may be able to do this. If there's a pen club near you where you can ask someone if you can, test their pen, sit down and have a writing session with their Sailor. If you have any friends in the community that have a Sailor that they might be able to loan you or mail you, to ask if you can try it out. If you have a pen shop near you that carries Sailors, you can try those out in person at like a local pen store that carries them. If all else fails, if you're like me and you're in a very rural area and you don't have access to any of those things, you can try Amazon. Amazon does have some older model Sailor pens on there with the gold nib. I think they only have medium fine nibs available though. I don't think they have fine or broad or anything like that. But it will give you a good enough idea of what the writing experience is like, and they are somewhat more affordable. They stay around the $100 range-ish for some of those older ones, and I think you can return them. You would just have to double check Amazon's return policy. That would be a way that you could try a Sailor at a more affordable price point if you don't have any of these other options available to you. Sailor's nibs are very divisive. They're very divisive. If you love a glassy, smooth writing experience, you might hate this because it's quite different. Some people describe it as a pencil-like feedback. I'm going to be honest, the first Sailor that I ever tried, I thought it was very scratchy. I had a hard time with it. Eventually, I started writing smaller and smaller, and I got really into a little bit of a drier writing experience, and I started really enjoying, like, the feeling of the nib on the page, and how I felt like I had more control when the ink in the pen was slightly drier. and not as glassy smooth. And I fell in love with Sailor at that point. I really, really liked their nibs and the writing experience they offer for that. So, if you've never ever written with a Sailor before and you're really, really tempted by this pen, and nothing I can say will talk you out of it, you can always take the plunge, but maybe you should make sure to buy from a retailer that has a good return policy just in case. Because I would hate for somebody to spend so much money on something that they really are not happy with and just winds up sitting like in a drawer unused. Because there are so many other nice pens that you could spend your money on and end up loving and using so much more. But that's totally my 2 cents. Okay, I'm going to show you a writing sample. So the ink that I have in this pen at the moment is, it was a limited edition Wearingle ink. It's called Medea Belliar. I'm going to show you. It's this one right here. I've spelled it on the page right there. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. I don't think it's for sale anymore, actually. I picked it up a long time ago. But it's kind of like a nice medium purple. It's very sparkly. And this is what it looks like on the page. This is just a Hobonichi A6 notebook. It's Tomo River paper. It writes beautifully. It handles the shimmer so beautifully. To me, that's one of the biggest appeals of having the gold nib in such a fine nib, like a medium fine. You can write small in these small grid, and you can still use shimmery inks, and it doesn't clog at all. Like, it handles the shimmer so well. I have used many different very, very shimmery inks in lots of different medium fine sized Sailor nibs, and I've never had any clogging issues. That being said, your mileage may vary. There's probably totally an ink that would clog a Sailor pen. I'm not saying that they're like bulletproof. I'm just saying in my experience, they tend to handle it very, very well. So that is a little overview of this beautiful Yumeyoi dreamy, starry, purple Sailor pen. I hope that the information was helpful. If you have this pen, let me know. Are you enjoying it? And if I talk you into getting it, also let me know. Have a good day. Bye.